And we are live. So, welcome to this new endeavor from An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. Here with me tonight in the house, I've got the Goraphobe. Always cool to hang out with and talk some horror or some sci-fi or some action thriller or something along those lines. So that's what we're going to do tonight. I am taking the channel in an interesting direction. I'm going to begin coverage of horror and sci-fi series. Obviously, you're limited to some extent. You couldn't do something like the X-Files. That's like, 11, seasons and, 2 movies and all that. So would be here for a year. But for some of there are a lot of great horror series out there that, well, I'd like to take a look at and discuss. And tonight, I'm going to begin with, for this particular thread, I'm going to begin with Showtime's all-time classic series, Penny Dreadful. And one of the things that makes it interesting for me is the vicarious experience I get teaming with people who haven't seen these series before. Eric and I are working on Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass. He hasn't seen Midnight Mass. So every week when we sit down, and we just started this past Thursday, I get to see his fresh reaction. You have not seen Penny Dreadful. So, I mean, that's part of what adds to the allure. I mean, you've got me, who's, just an enormous fan of the entire series. I've had them on Blu-ray for forever.
Right.
But, to team up with someone who hasn't seen them at all, give me some of your initial feedback from the show. What did you think? You saw the first episode. We're going to be doing this every week, one episode. What did you think of the first one?
Yeah, well, you sent me a message asking me to, if I could hold off and not watch the second episode yet. So, that's pretty much my plan anyway, because I didn't want to throw too much in and get my mind confused on which episode I was doing.
Right.
But yeah, initially I wasn't sure who was in it, and so first off, you see, of course, you see the beginning what happens, and then it gets to Ava Green, which I thought was pretty cool. And then one I was really surprised by was Josh Hartnett. I was impressed with a lot of stuff he's done in the past, like Faculty, things like that. That was a good little role for him.
Sure.
And then the old 007 himself, Timothy Dalton, popped in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love the many directions it goes, and within one episode, it opens up so many different of the classic movie monsters and the different myths and stuff. You know what I mean? I thought that was really cool. At the end of the episode, it went by so quick that I didn't realize it was the end, and it ended, and I was like, damn, because I was curious what was going to go on next. So, and that's always a mark of a good show.
Yeah, Penny Dreadful, for those who may not be aware, and, I'm launching this. I launched this with like 15 minutes notice on social media. So, I saw you put something on IG about it. So we'll see who stops in. And it may take a little bit to catch on, but I feel that we're onto something good here. Penny Dreadful was this really well-crafted horror series where someone decided to intertwine all the gothic horror threads. You've got vampires. You've got I don't want to give it away, actually, because you haven't seen anything yet. So it's intertwined many gothic horror threads into just one really fantastic series. And I remember in 2014 when it first dropped it, I watched that first episode. Unlike Netflix nowadays, what Showtime did was drop one episode per week. Right. So you literally were left right on that cliffhanger. You're like, shit, I want to see some more, show it to me right now. And we had to wait. HBO is doing that now with their series. Netflix just drops everything at once. And I think they're going to probably change that soon because, you watch it all in 2 days, you binge it, and then, it's out of your head in a week, whereas this, just keeps going. Okay, so go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and that's no way to keep people with a subscription every month either. If they can watch, if you can run through 5 complete series in 1 month, there's your 10, $15, and then they just
Yeah.
don't subscribe.
Yeah, and I think that it's probably a lot more expensive as we see Hollywood continue to struggle for money, and things like this. That they're probably going to be cutting back, and starting to drop these things out weekly, because now by dropping everything at once, you're much more pressed to come up with more content.
Right.
Because you've just you've dropped all 13 or 9 or 10 episodes or whatever it is, as opposed to doing it once a week. You fill that slot up and things work out much better. So here we are. We are in London at the beginning of the, I guess the end of the 19th century or something, in the Gothic horror in London. And you've got this scene here where this woman and this child, and they're sleeping in this bed, and it looks cold.
Oh, yeah, you see her breath.
Yeah, you can see their breath. She's shivering because she has to go to the bathroom. And for some reason, I watched it. I just finished this episode before we went on. The smells that must have come from these sort of indoor outhouses, or it must have been awful. One of the things that people ask all the time is, if you could pick another time in history to live, what would it be? And I say all the time, no, I want to stay right here, right now.
Right.
I've got indoor plumbing, I've got climate control, I've got a car. We don't have tuberculosis and disease and smallpox and all these different things, and we're not burning each other at the stake, and this works just fine. I got 5G. I might move to 10G. I got climate control. I got Wi-Fi. All the books and movies that I want. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And so when I see these sorts of things, I'm thinking, shit, just to get up and go to the bathroom, you must have had to freeze.
And women sit down,
Yeah.
And women sit on the cold ass toilet.
Yeah, which is probably just a piece of wood with like a hole carved in it.
Right.
It just looks awful and uncomfortable. She's just got this light, this oil lamp, and it doesn't look like there's any heat to speak of. It just looks terrible. And she sits down on the toilet, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she just gets fucking grabbed. And you're just like, what the heck? You don't see exactly what it is. What did you think of that scene?
Oh, I wasn't sure exactly what was going to go on there. I mean, I seen her get up out of the bed and then go in there, and the first thing I noticed was I seen her breath. I was telling my son and my fiance, I was like, "Look, man, it's cold." She's sitting there having to take a piss, and you can see her breath. So it's like how miserable. One thing that I wanted to touch on here was one of the first things I noticed about this was the set design. It's absolutely fantastic, man. I felt like I was there in that time, But yeah, I was expecting something to happen, but I wasn't quite sure exactly what. But when it pulled her out of there, I tried to see what it was, and you couldn't tell. It's just like a big hole. It's like a big bunch of wind or a big black hole formed right there. It sucked her right out of it.
Yeah, because it's just that flimsy paneling, and she's probably sitting on, you're getting a splinter in your ass cheek, and then all of a sudden it's very fucking dark. And you're absolutely right. The set designs are completely convincing. This is a show that lets you know in advance that whoever created it really gave a shit.
Like I felt cold just watching it.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same way. And I should mention now, if you want to watch this show, a lot of times it's shifting around on different streaming channels, but right now it's on Showtime, and it was a Showtime original series. But Showtime, if you have Paramount Plus, you can get it with Showtime, which is how I have it. I mean, I also have it on Blu-ray, but if you're looking for it and you have Paramount Plus or you have Showtime, that's where you'll find it right now. Hold on a second. We got a comment here. It's Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. And he says, I'll keep my indoor plumbing over outhouses and chamber pots. Yeah, can you imagine the smell
Yeah.
Oh, and the
Shows do Yeah, I mean, shows do a good job of glamorizing, the past and times in the past. But when you really break it right down, it's not nearly as glamorous as the way they make it look.
no, and you're just like, fuck that, man. That's not happening with me.
Right.
Um, we show also at the before we go into the introduction, which is actually something I want to talk about. There's the little girl, and the little girl is. And another thing, I just thought there was such a great detail. I don't know if you noticed it. She gets out of the bed, and you've already established that it's cold, and she's
Right.
got one sock on, and then she's got one bare foot, and I'm just like,
Yes.
oh man, this is just fucking awful. And I guess she just gets fucking got to because she opens the bathroom door trying to find her mother, and she just lets out this scream, and then it just goes right into
Yeah.
the intro and the credits, which I actually loved.
Yeah.
I think it's a great intro. It's stylish. It's got some cool, creepy ass music. It's kind of long, but I mean, as many times as I've watched Penny Dreadful, I never flipped through the intro.
Right.
I never fast forward through it. So I just thought that was great.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is really an example of a first class horror series. And it's just, like you said, you've got superb casting and people who give a shit and a great story. What's not to love?
Right. And and even the intro, even though it is an intro and it's not real long, it's long enough to where you get to feel cold, you get to feel uncomfortable, you get to notice the set design, and then it even takes you through long enough for her to get through a full piss before basically you'd have no time to get through a full piss before she gets sucked out. And then that noise obviously wakes up her daughter, or I mean, it's like one of those things like when you're asleep and just something happens or you hear a noise, even if it's not real loud, it's just enough to
Yeah,
startle you, your
yeah,
subconscious. And I think that's what got her up. And then she goes in there, and yeah, like you said, you hear the scream and you go into the intro.
yeah. She gets grabbed too. Um, so after that, it starts out with Vanessa Ives, played by the great Eva Green. And she's just in this dark fucking room and she's praying, I think, the Hail Mary in Latin. And it just shows you, something's off right away because you can't really tell what it is. But I mean, well, you can't tell. It's a spider. They got a
Yeah.
spider crawling along the cross. But then again, I'm thinking, well, it's the 19th century, so you probably just had bugs and things like that. It's just a fact of life. But yeah, clearly something going on with her. What did you think when you saw Eva Green?
Um, I remembered her from a few things that she had done, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was. So I went back and checked it out, and she's got a pretty good filmography.
Oh yeah,
She's always really interesting. She has this really interesting look about her.
yeah.
Very very unique. She's like one of the first things I remember her in was 300 Rise of an Empire, and
Okay.
a lot of people say a lot of things about that show, but she plays a really good part in that show. She plays the best character in that show, and she just has this. She's attractive, yet she's not too attractive. You know what I mean? She just has this attraction that you just can't quite pinpoint what it is. That's what I
She's.
was describing.
I always think of her like a super hot goth chick.
Yeah, but you're
You
not
know.
sure what exactly it is that's hot. You just know it's something. She has something to gravitate to.
I think she has great fucking features, and I love her eyes, and she's just got a great figure, and her accent is sexy. I remember
It's more of
her.
a sexy appeal.
My first experience with her was Casino Royale.
Hmm.
She's the Bond girl. She's the Bond girl for the first Daniel Craig movie, Vespa. She's Vespa Lind, and she was great in that. I thought she stole a lot of scenes, and since then I've seen her just continue to steal scenes. Right after that, but you see she's praying, and the fucking spider is crawling across her, so it lets you know right away that something's going on with her. And then they keep moving. You get this quick introduction of a lot of different characters, and the next person you meet is Josh Hartnett. So, I mean, you said you didn't know that Josh Hartnett was in it either.
No, no, and he plays a character named Ethan, which is
Yeah,
basically a which I thought when I first seen him and see what he was doing, I was immediately saying bullshit, and I thought he was a complete fraud in every way to begin with.
Right. Yeah, because he starts out as like this traveling actor or something like that, putting on like this over the top American gun show where he's talking about how he was at the Little Bighorn, and he was there with Custer, and he's a big Indian fighter, and so all these stupid rich British people are like clapping, and he's firing off his gun, and he appears to be very competent with a gun. But then we see that Eva Green is in the audience with him, in the audience, sort of scoping him out. And I love that one scene that they have. I wish I could show it to you, but where all the people are watching the bullets go back and forth, like it's a tennis match, but she's the only one. She just keeps her eyes on him the entire time. Yeah. So you're right. He does come off like this completely over the top, and you're like, what? This isn't Josh Hartnett. I've seen 30 Days a Night. I've seen Black Hawk Down, these sorts of things. He plays somebody really intense. But it starts out that way where he's like almost this sort of, court jester kind of actor dude. So
it fit perfectly though. You know what I mean? I mean, if he fit right into it, like I was totally believing it. I was totally believing he was a fraud full of shit in every way.
Yeah. So he gets confronted by Eva Green, who is trying to hire him to appear for one night's work. And the name of this episode is called Night Work. The first episode of season 1 is called Night Work, and that's exactly why she comes to see him, because she wants someone who's competent with a gun, probably wouldn't have trouble killing someone, and would be willing to meet her and her friends later on this evening. Really good performances. Really good performances so far. I mean, we're like 10 minutes into it, and I remember I was just fucking riveted. I'm like, holy shit, this is really good.
Yeah, and I mean, and don't forget the girl that he was porking there at the other side of the wagon. There, he doesn't even know her name. I mean, the last thing she asked him is, "Well, what do you want to know my name?" And he's just like,
Yeah. She's like, if you're never going to forget me, you might actually want to ask my name. After he's done, like fucking her, but yeah, it's too fucking late by then, he's already sort of made his apologies. So, I mean, it just starts right off and goes right into it. They end up showing up, for the evening, and then, he agrees to show up, and then, wait, what ends up happening? Oh, that's right. We end up meeting the man himself, the great fucking Timothy Dalton.
Sir Malcolm, yes.
Yeah, Sir Malcolm Murray, and I just could not believe what I was seeing, that James Bond was fucking in this.
Right. He played it through two of them, Living Daylights and License to Kill.
License to Kill. And License to Kill is one of my favorite Bond movies. It's got Robert Davi as the fucking bad guy. And I just couldn't believe what I was looking at. I'm like, holy shit, I've got Eva Green, I've got Josh Hartnett, and I've got Timothy fucking Dalton in a horror series.
Yeah.
Strange combination. What the hell is happening here, man?
They knew what they were doing casting-wise. I mean, it's a strange combination, but it works, and it didn't take time to work. It works right away. I mean, like you feel you feel it between Eva Green and Josh Hartnett right away.
Yeah, there's really good chemistry here between all of these people. And it's not a surface cut. Like, these people are all, this is almost a humorless series. You know how in horror, sometimes, you have a lot of brevity and laughter, to break the tension. There's really none of that here. These people are all deadly serious. They're not fucking around at all. And so, hey, is this the man that you were talking about? Yes. And he plays Sir Malcolm Murray, which is going to tie into a major gothic horror thread, because he's looking for his daughter, whose name is Mina.
Mina, yep.
So you know where that comes from. That's right out of Stoker's Dracula. So what they've done is taken Stoker's character, Mina Murray, and brought her father into it, who's now looking for his daughter. and decided to cast James Bond himself
Yeah.
as the father. And I'm like, this is just amazing. Like this never would have occurred to me, to just combine all these different threads and just put them together in a horror series. And it's a real shame that the show only lasted 3 seasons because, I haven't seen. I haven't.
The story. Did they just tell the story they wanted to? Why did it end so quick? Do you know? Did they just tell everything they wanted to tell and left it while they was on top, or?
Kind of. I think I don't remember if people had other contractual obligations or what, but I mean the way that it ends when we get there, we'll talk about that at that point, assuming that you wish to continue all this way. But what ends up happening, the next thing you know, and I checked it, within 15 minutes, they're fucking battling vampires. Because they don't explain anything to Josh Hartnett. They just take him down there and said, don't hesitate. Use your guns if you got to. And then the next thing you know, they're down into this basement, like this seedy sort of area that's nondescript, and it's just infested with fucking vampires. And it's great. It's just great stuff. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah, that's when I first realized that the Ethan character at least was somewhat serious. He at least was a serious character. And that's when you see him completely change. He goes from this cocky, sure of himself guy to realizing that shit is serious. Like at one point he was like, what the fuck are we dealing with here?
Yeah, because they don't tell him anything. Who are we looking for? Who are all these people? What the hell just happened here? And, Dalton has that, 19th century sort of, Edwardian, stiff British gentleman kind of thing going on the one hand, but then he'll just go, you see he's sticking a grappling hook under the chin and through the mouth of a vampire in the next scene. And then he'll switch right back into being Sir Malcolm again.
Yeah.
So, it's just great acting. It's just great acting. It's fantastic. But yeah, he's looking for his daughter, Mina, Mina from the Dracula series. And it's unbelievable how good this series is. And then we get to what I believe is what did you think when you saw that scene?
Well, I love the big pile and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't sure. I knew there were vampires to begin with, where they got up and contorted and all that kind of stuff. And one thing I was impressed by is that when they stabbed him or whatever, they didn't burst into flames, and they didn't, they actually went down. They actually simplified it and took it down to where, I'm assuming that the sword was silver, and through the heart kills them.
Yeah.
But I like the fact they didn't burst into flames. They didn't, They didn't turn into ash and fall apart. They just kind of fell down and was dead. And
yeah, they didn't turn into sludge or any of that kind of over the top sort of goofiness. They just sort of fell over, and that was kind of the end of it. But then you finally get to what you assume is going to be like the lead vampire here, and he's just a nasty looking bastard.
Yeah.
Almost like a Nosferatu kind of character.
Which is what they were kind of looking for, except for they realized there was more than one. They was like, is there any more of these kind? Because I think that's what they were looking for. They just didn't know there was more than one.
Yeah, but it's just amazing to me that in the first 15 or 20 minutes, you're getting a look at. I thought they were great. I thought they were great practical effects, but you're definitely just getting a look at this top tier monster.
They call it Martha Pyle.
Yeah, there's just this, and we'll try to show that in a little bit. But there's just this pile of bloody bodies, and they're all vampires. Like they're just laying on top of each other, not moving. And then out of the bottom, comes, this guy, because the other vampires look relatively human. And then, this giant fucking vampire just comes crawling like right out of the bottom of this hole and just starts, wreaking havoc until Sir Malcolm, fucking stabs him right through the heart,
Yeah.
with that
Yeah.
silver cane. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I liked how they just dropped. I don't mean to keep going back to that, but I was impressed with how they didn't burst into ash or turn into sludge or whatever. You know what I mean? I just like the simplicity of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just really good stuff. This idea that they're just, I mean, if I can get it, if I can show you, that there are just these piles and piles of dead bodies. I mean, those are all just dead, bloody vampires just laying on top of each other, in some sort of, basement,
Yeah.
this kind of thing. And it's just, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Such
That's
good
like,
stuff.
what the hell have you got me involved in here? What the
Yeah.
hell? Is
Yeah. It's just, it's great. Now, the next thing after that, they end up taking the lead vampire because it's Sir Malcolm, and I guess he knows his way around the place, down into these sort of underground cadaver. How would you describe where they took him?
That's like an underground. It's a place where you could either sell off bodies or whatever, but it's basically a medical examiner's office. Place where they do autopsies and all that kind of different shit. But
Yeah.
you can tell it's underground, and that particular doctor. I mean, you can tell that he's definitely he's definitely not cynical. What's the word I'm looking for? What's that word? Where someone's kind of odd, yet they know what they're talking about, but they come off kind of weird. What is that freaking word?
Yeah, he's fucking weird. He's just fucking weird. And I guess we can give this. Did you pick up on who that was?
Not at that time. I didn't know.
Okay. Well, I think it's okay. Maybe I won't do it then. I won't do it. So they meet this doctor who's just down there conducting research on these cadavers with other doctors. In this medical. Like you said, the ME sort of office, the late 19th century version of an ME office. And yeah, I mean, they're just all down there. And I guess, they've got it's a different time. So I guess there are just tons of dead bodies if doctors want to, run experiments or, cut them up for scientific purposes or whatever.
Grave robbing is what I kind of suspected is where a lot of them come from, because you see a lot from that time. There was a lot of that grave robbing going on, so that they could do those experiments and so that they could up their medical expertise, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you learn by doing, and if you have all these,
you gotta get them somewhere.
Dead bodies just laying around in the city, you probably get lots of experience that way. So they end up taking the dead body over to this doctor who examines it and actually peels the skin back on it. And there are all sorts of fucking fucked up Egyptian hieroglyphics underneath the skin.
Yeah. That really surprised me. I wasn't expecting that, for him to peel that back and find some ancient Egyptian writing and all that kind of. I was expecting that to get tied into the whole vampire thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is this show really goes for it, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of hints of a lot of different things that I've seen, like the like all the dead bodies in the one room. I won't get into that yet, but you know what I'm saying. What that hinted at.
Wait, what are we talking about here?
With the woman all torn to pieces in that room that they go check out here in a little bit.
Oh yeah. When we go back to the crime scene with the murders in the very beginning, we see these piles of bodies that are just, I mean, in here, we're seeing the hieroglyphics from the skin being pulled back on the fucking vampire. And there's just like thousand-year-old, Egyptian writing underneath his skin. It's a first-class story. First class.
Yeah, it almost looked like he had almost like the wrapping underneath and then skin on top of it. I mean, I'm not sure exactly where they were going with that, but it was definitely cool.
Well, let's just say more will be revealed.
Right. Oh yeah.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. So, I mean, I should say this is an episode that's what, 45 minutes maybe?
52, I think, maybe something like
52, but I mean, not a single wasted scene. The script is very tight. Every single thing is relevant and important. Just fantastic. I mean, from the minute the camera starts rolling, it goes at it, and it doesn't let up.
Did you know who the doctor was when you first seen him?
Yes, I figured it out. Yeah, I intuited that.
For some reason, it didn't strike me yet, not till the end.
Okay. So you do understand who it is.
Yes, because it tells you about the last 5 minutes of it. Last 5 minutes of the episode. You get with that doctor and with what he's doing.
Yeah.
When he first went in there,
Gore, just say it. Who is it?
Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's Dr. Frankenstein. They intertwine that and just wonderfully fucking have this guy, this young doctor down there with all the other doctors cutting up cadavers, for research purposes. And it's Victor Frankenstein. They run into Victor Frankenstein. It's fantastic the way that they do that.
Which is why that whole time when I was trying to explain it, I was trying to think of that one damn word that explains his personality, but I still can't think of it. Eccentric. That's it. Thank you.
Eccentric.
The whole time I was sitting here going like this, I was trying to think of that damn word. But yeah, very eccentric. So when he goes into his own lab, as soon as that happened, when he went in there, I said, "That's Frankenstein."
Yeah.
My son said the same thing. My son was like, "It's Dr. Frankenstein."
Yeah, it's Dr. Frankenstein. So we got vampires. We got Mina Murray. They're looking for Mina Murray. You got Sir Malcolm and these other, sort of original characters. Automatically within maybe 20 minutes, they're meeting Dr. Frankenstein. Yeah. Then one of my favorite characters, actually, and he's only in there for a few minutes this episode, is the black guy, Sam Bennett. Who works for Sir Malcolm. He drops the tuxedo off for Dr. Frankenstein. He's a great character. We're going to see a lot more of him and all the cool stuff that he does throughout. Because if you think like Sir Malcolm is stoic or any of these other people are stoic, he takes it to like the nth degree. He's just great. We get to meet another character. So we have this conversation between Vanessa and Ethan, where he comes back the next morning and he's like, what the hell is going on there? And she describes it as what she would call a demimonde, like this sort of shadow world between the world that we understand and, this other places that's full of curses, right. And, the sort of supernatural world. And I thought that was a great term for it. Because clearly, you're meeting Frankenstein, you're seeing vampires, you're, seeing this woman and this little girl within the first 3 minutes of the show just get torn to pieces. So, that's clearly where we're at with things. We also meet another character called Mr. Lyle. And Mr. Lyle's a cool character. He goes through all 3 seasons of this. Who's... What did he say? Yeah. The British Museum is no place for actual academics or anything like that. It's a complete pose.
I definitely enjoyed this character because he goes from being not necessarily comical, but you can definitely see the comedy in him, and just how and how he knows who Sir Malcolm is, and he's actually honored that he's there. But quickly things until things quickly go serious when he realizes what he wants and what he wants him to check out, and then that's when he lets him know exactly what it is he's dealing with so far.
Yeah, let's just say that Mr. Lyle is excessively flamboyant. Right. He's but it is in a sort of comic way. It's presented in sort of this lighthearted character in the middle of all this ultra seriousness. And I guess if it had been done with a lesser writer or perhaps lesser performers, you would say, "What the fuck am I looking at here?" You're like, "This doesn't make any sense." Why is
Yeah.
this guy in here? With this guy somehow, and I think he does a really good job with his performance throughout the entirety of the series. Um, it works. It completely works. Um, all of the performances are also very, and I said stoic, but I don't know. Maybe the better term is just low key.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing is overstated. They're not showing themselves off. You know what I mean? It's very nonchalantly, very naturally flowed into, rather than forced or overacted or any of that bullshit.
Yeah, nothing like that at all. Um, and I think that's part of what keeps the the tension. Um, does such a good job of keeping all the tension. I'm not exactly sure how to phrase it. Um, it never sort of lets up.
No, it's
Take it for a sec, Gord. Take it for a second. I'll be back. I'm right here, but I'm in the middle of something.
well, yeah. I mean, it just, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's not overstated. Everyone naturally fits into their characters. Um, you feel like they are those characters. Like unlike this, you just talk about Ava Green. Like she's always got this mysteriousness about her. Like I said, the first thing I remember seeing her in was 300: Rise of an Empire, and that one's not as good as the original, but her
Yeah,
character completely steals the show in that. She's the villain in it, and the antagonist, and she completely steals it from everybody else's in the show. Like when it's over, like she's one of the only people that you'll remember. That's like the only character you definitely remember.
yeah. In fact, I think maybe I didn't talk about it with you, but I had recently watched 300, and we had talked about it during Dawn of the Dead. I think we had talked about Zack Snyder, and
Uh-huh.
I mean, I just watched 300 the other day. It still holds up.
Oh yeah.
It's still fantastic. And then right after that, maybe the next day or maybe even the same day, I tried to watch the second one.
Awesome.
And yeah, it wasn't quite as good. But you're right. Eva Green's performance, of course, stands out in it. Um,
Steals it.
yeah, it's really solid. Really solid.
He's
Um,
a hell of an antagonist.
yeah, yeah. Wait. Oh, yo, she is. Yeah, she's fantastic. She's fantastic. Um, so, I mean, Sir Malcolm ends up talking to Dr. Frankenstein and sort of puts him on the payroll, to help them, although he's not exactly describing what's going on. And then Malcolm goes back to his house, and Mina is just in the room. And then all of a sudden, she flips from that to go full fucking vampire within a matter of seconds. And it's actually, well, what did you think?
Well, first of all, I was going back and forth because I couldn't remember, because it depends on what I read the novel many years ago, Bram Stoker's Dracula, but in the Dracula movies, it flip flops which one becomes a vampire, and which one is romanticized by Dracula. Sometimes it's Lucy, sometimes it's Mina, sometimes it's Mina, sometimes it's Lucy. And I was trying to get it straight, so I'm figuring, since it's been so long since I've read it, it must be Mina that he takes, and Lucy is the one that he's trying to romanticize.
Well, in the book, there's no romanticism.
Well, yeah,
There's no he
there's
doesn't do any.
one that he's after, though, right? Still,
Well, he gets Lucy in the very beginning. He
okay.
gets
So it's Lucy
Lucy,
in the book. Okay,
and Mina is the one that he's chasing
right,
because Harker and Van Helsing and the rest of the crew end up killing Lucy and cutting her head off, and doing what they have to do to set
right.
her free. And so it's Mina, who's Harker's wife, that he
Okay,
goes
okay.
after in revenge.
Because it goes back and forth. In the movies, sometimes Mina's turned vampire first, sometimes it's Lucy. It
Yeah,
depends on which one you watch.
yeah. But in the book, it's Lucy gets it first, and then
Okay.
Dracula gets killed in his pursuit of Mina.
Okay.
But in this particular interpretation, it looks like the vampire has won, and
Right.
Mina has become a fucking vampire. And yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Yeah,
And
because
then
we don't get any kind of Lucy yet in this, so I'm not sure about that.
Lucy will not be a character.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. So
Lucy is not a
Okay.
character. No, Lucy is not a character in this. This is not a Dracula story per se. It's just part of a much larger thread of things that intertwine all of these different characters. But the main characters throughout all of this are going to be Sir Malcolm, Vanessa, and Ethan Chandler.
Right.
They're going to be the main characters. So, and also the peripheral character, Dr. Frankenstein will be there, so on and so forth. And that's kind of where the story ends, where Frankenstein comes back from his meeting with Sir Malcolm, only to find out that the creature that he has had on the table is missing. Right. And when he goes looking for it, it's actually come to life. He's animated it without actually realizing it, and he ended up leaving the lab, comes back, and the thing is just up and walking around.
It finally worked, yeah, and I don't think he was expecting that at this time. And you just see he does such a great job of playing it. Harry Treadway, you can see it without saying a word. You can see it in his eyes, you can see it in his face, just everything. He is just touched. He is so proud, you know what I mean? So proud and so thrilled that this is up walking around.
Yeah, yeah. Where else do you know Harry Treadway from?
I haven't seen him do. I've seen him do something else, but I can't put my finger on it.
Okay. But I mean, that's kind of the episode. Attacks.
A team. I noticed that he basically. I mean, I'm not sure if this is where they're going with it, but it looked like he's putting together basically a team of each person that's a specialist or whatever in whatever category.
Yeah. I guess Josh Hartnett is the muscle, of sorts. Yeah. Eva Green and Sir Malcolm, they have a real tight relationship, so they're in it together. And I guess you'll find out more about that. Vanessa, I guess is friends with Mina, or was friends with Mina. You've got the academic, Mr. Lyle. You've got the doctor, Dr. Frankenstein. And you're right. Sir Malcolm is assembling a team to help try to find his daughter. It's fantastic to watch. And I'll tell you right now, every episode is equally as good, if not better.
Yeah, they ended the first episode really well with him kind of coming there, Frankenstein touching his face, and Frankenstein, the monster touching his face, and he reaches out and wipes away that tear from Dr. Frankenstein, and then puts it on his eye, like he's trying to emulate, like he understands, but he's not sure. It's almost as if he's going, because the way it was originally told was even the eyes were not the original eyes, like he put new eyes in him. So I'm not sure if they're able to cry. So maybe that's why he did it. I don't know.
I have to tell you, the Frankenstein thread is enormous in this story. It's enormous in this story. So, I mean, we're going to be looking at Sir Malcolm and Vanessa and Ethan, but all of the other characters get a really respectable storyline. But I'm telling you, the Frankenstein storyline is off the charts. It's off the charts. It's fantastic. So again, for me, one of the big joys of doing this is, talking to you about it, who hasn't seen it before.
Right. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So did my son, and my fiance was even like, yeah, that's a pretty good show. I ain't wanting to watch episode 2, but I was like, just hey, hang on, let me do this show, and then we'll watch 2. I'll check it out, and then I'll check it out again right before we do the next one.
Okay, that sounds good. That's pretty much the show, man. It sounds like I've done my job. I've got you hooked on some Penny Dreadful. One more person, and for me, I don't have, 500,000 subs or anything like that. But if I can get a couple of people turned on to something new, that I think is awesome, then, my job is done there. And hopefully, word of mouth goes, and you pass Penny Dreadful on to somebody else, so on and so forth. And yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
That's what I was doing a few months back. On Monday night would be like a regular watch along. And then Tuesday night, I was calling Forgotten Horror Classics, which is ones that people have never even heard of, or they forgot about them, just ones that aren't talked about all the time. You know what I mean? YouTubers talk about the same damn movies all the time, and there's so much other great horror out there that everybody keeps missing. And it's a shame.
Well, I mean, this isn't something I could have done right away, because even some of the people on my show, like, they don't have channels. Right. Some of the more regulars on my channel, on this channel, they don't have their own channels or whatever. It took a while to get this, moving enough where I could start to meet other creators who might be willing to invest in a weekly kind of thing. Right. So now with you doing this, with Eric doing Midnight Mass, I'm trying to pick up Picard season 3. With Frank, maybe from The Harsh Truth. So, these series that really should be looked at. So, this weekly sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, they're fun to watch. They don't take a lot of time. The episodes are really brief, and the streams are brief. I mean, we're finished. For all intents and purposes, we're finished. So it's all good.
I don't know anybody else that's doing that either. So that's a really good original idea.
Yeah. It's something I wanted to do for a while, but like I said, here I am in year 3. So, you end up meeting enough people, that are doing, or doing similar things or have similar interests. And then from there, you can start to, form those relationships and, sort of venture out these ideas. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. All right. Anything about the episode you want to get into that we didn't touch on?
No. The only thing is that we really didn't talk about was the room full of you got the woman and they're all torn to pieces, and what they discuss and what they think it might be, or who they're comparing it to. Yeah.
So do you want to get into that? Go ahead. Huh?
Well, there's just a mention of a Ripper, and they kind of hinted it might be a Jack the Ripper thing. So
Jack the Ripper might be back. Yeah.
I was intrigued that even Jack the Ripper was thrown in here with the classic monster. I was like, hell yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, what's more horrible than real life, right? And when it comes to that kind of stuff, So
Jack the Ripper is just something. It seems like at that time, you take that time frame, and you can mix him into just about anything because it was just so real and just so horrible, and they definitely didn't make light on it. That room was a freaking mess.
I have an anthology of short stories about Jack the Ripper. I've never actually read them. I'm going to have to dig into that. Sounds like a lot of fun, actually. Anthology of Jack the Ripper.
Oh yeah.
All right. I think we can bring it to a close here. Make it short and to the point. We will be back next Sunday, 8 p.m. Does that sound good for you?
Cool. That works.
8 p.m. Episode 2 of Penny Dreadful. I believe that episode is called Seance. So lots more horror coming our way. My thanks to the Goraphobe for agreeing to do this. And yeah, man, always appreciate it. And is there anything you want to plug coming up this week?
I'm working on right now and put it out. I won't be able to put it out tomorrow, but probably Tuesday I'll be able to put out my first. It'll be episode 5 and Horror for All. And it's my first one solo, and I've got a whole new platform thought of for it, so it should kick some ass.
Okay, sounds good.
Other than that, tomorrow night I start my my 3-month-long run of every Monday night. I'm going to be doing Italian horror watch alongs. I'm starting out with Lucio Fulci.
Okay. Oh, you're going Giallo, that kind of stuff.
Yep. Every Monday for the next 3 months. Yep.
Okay. All right. So that sounds cool. Check it out. I'll end up putting your link in the description. So check out his channel. He's a hardworking creator out there all the time, trying to get the message out and ring the bell for horror, so people can find some good stuff to enjoy.
I've also got. I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm not sure if it's ever going to be every Thursday or Friday. This last week, I started a new show. It's where we're covering right now. We're covering a lot of A24 and a lot of films like that. We did Saint Maud.
That's a good movie.
Me and my 16-year-old Ryan. We're reviewing them every week. We start out with Saint Maud, and he did a kick-ass job. Smart kid, and he's a huge film fan. And we make a pretty good team, so that's something I'm really excited about. Just want to plug that real quick.
All right, yeah. Check out the Goraphobes content. He's working a lot. He's working overtime, so check out some of his stuff and show him some love. For this, well, I guess on Wednesday we'll be here. We're going to be covering Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy. You're welcome to join us if you like. Thursday, we'll be back with Eric to cover episode 2 of Midnight Mass, second episode. That's a 7-episode series, so that'll be a limited series. And then we'll see if we can get some Picard in, if I can find a connection on that, someone to team up with. I got to see what's going on with Frank, if we can connect the schedules. But then we'll be back here next Sunday talking episode 2 of Penny Dreadful. So my best to the Goraphobe. And I guess we'll see you in the next video. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Take care.